joy, joy, play all day. Let's get loud in a world of toys. Come and join the crowd with every laugh and every cheer. You'll battalion magic of the year. Happy, joy, joy, hear them sing, shining bright like a diamond ring. A toy parade, let's celebrate in this land with dreams away. You will be the greatest joy, joy, joy to fun, bring endless joy, joy.
I'll give you $1. Sure, you can give me $1 for it. The man wearing a stained Pittsburgh Steelers jersey smiled and started to pull out a wrinkled dollar out of the back of his white paint-stained jeans until, right after I learn how to fly, Jules interrupted with a confident sarcasm. This was Jules's standard operating personality. She had settled into turning 30 by approaching life with a consistent tone of who gives a shit. Oh, you're being sarcastic. This ain't just any stapler, Harold. Can I call you Harold? My name is Luke. Like I said, Harold, this is a 525 black clench stapler handcrafted by the Stapletons. This is the Thor's hammer of staplers, my good man. It's got dookie on it. Well, it's a hot day, Harold. Perhaps a bird flew by and relieved some summer stress by defecating. That's not my fault. And it certainly isn't the fault of this damn fine stapler, is it? Jules leaned back into her lounge chair on the green lawn and kicked up her feet onto the display table in front of her. Emma barged in between them, took Luke's dollar while simultaneously handing him the stapler. $1 works. Thanks, Luke. Emma turned to Jules, annoyed. Busting balls over a stapler? Really, Jules? I'm bargaining. See, you never worked on Wall Street. You don't understand how the economy works. You never worked on Wall Street, Emma responded. No, Jules said, but I've banged a ton of finance bros. Jules, Emma said, taking Jules's beer from her mid-sip, the idea is to sell things, hence the term tag sale. Emma finished the beer and then handed it back to Jules. Emma was the same age as Jules. Well, technically 2 weeks younger, a fact which Jules would bring up roughly once per week. How much for the pink pillows? A voice questioned from nearby. 20, Jules exclaimed. Emma turned to Jules, who felt Emma's stare, took a beat, and said, $5. A $5 bill was handed to a smiling Emma, who courteously told them, enjoy. The tiny green front lawn was covered with tables, mostly the same size, 3 by 5 feet. The items on each table ran the gamut from every nook and cranny you could find in a house. Silverware, plates, pots, pillows, blankets, t-shirts, coasters, board games, DVDs, books. People would litter in from time to time as this very low-key tag sale marched on in the middle of the quiet suburban block. Emma made her way from potential customer to potential customer, charming and smiling her way into hoping people would take away everything on display. A tiny hand tugged on the back of her red tank top, worn today in hopes that men might wander over out of curiosity, a trick she learned in her waitressing days. Yes, June? June, all 4 foot and 5 years of her, looked up, her long blonde hair flowing behind her. Mommy, I sold the coloring books. That's great, Junebug. How much did you get for it? 50 cents, June boasted. Great job, June. Go give that money over to Aunt Jules, okay? June followed the instruction and then headed over to a now disrobing into beachwear Jules as she bellowed, It's so hot. If only someone would cool me off by buying one of these state-of-the-art hand fans on sale for the low, low price of $13. Excuse me, miss, Emma heard from nearby while refolding the remaining towels. How much for this? Emma turned and looked surprised. Oh, that is... Being held up was a doll, about 30 inches, with long, flowing blonde hair, piercing light blue eyes, bright pink cheeks, wearing overalls over the top of a plain white t-shirt, hands firmly planted onto her hips, boosting pride, confidence, with a full-blown Americana country Barbie vibes, all the way USA. Emma remained confused. There's no tag on it. Not that I can see. The man with a buzz cut wearing a green camo navy t-shirt said. Well, why don't we say 10? The Navy man nodded and began to open his wallet until, Mommy, can I keep that? Emma heard from the small hand tugging nearby. June, is that yours? No, June said. Well, where did it come from, sweetie? I don't know, June said, shrugging. Can I keep it, though? Well, June, please, Mama. She's so cute. Look at her little cheeks. Emma turned back to the Navy man and asked, Do you mind? My daughter would really love it. Can I give you 20 for it? No, Mom, please. Sorry, she just... 30, the man interjected. Emma, torn between the money and her daughter, started to open her mouth until, You heard my niece, pal, Jules said, walking over while blatantly pushing up her bra. The doll stays here. So you're going to put that $30 back into your tight jeans and then take me out to Olive Garden so we can set the mood for bad decisions. Do we make ourselves clear? The Navy man, puzzled, pointed to the ring on his finger. I'm married. There was a long pause. As Jules realized this was all for naught, she responded the only way she could in this moment by stating, Beat it, bozo. The now confused Navy man walked away. Yay! June said, taking the doll back into her arms and running off to sit on the two light-faded blue porch steps leading up into the very moderate, low-key two-story house with an oval window front and center towards the top. This was their home, for now. Did you bring that? Emma asked Jules. Yes, because my apartment is full of adorable dolls, Jules said sarcastically. Emma looked around, wondering, who brought that? A neighbor probably dropped it off while we weren't looking, Jules said calmly before going back to her lounging on her lawn chair. Right, Emma conceded. The hot day turned into a humid night as people occasionally passed through, looking, touching, bargaining, and sometimes even buying, while Emma, Jules, and June played salesman. A group of kids ran by the house holding glow sticks as Emma and Jules put the last of the remaining random items into a mixed bag box of coffee cups, printer paper, and protein powder. How much do we make, Mama? Jules asked as she sprayed her face with the hose in the backyard blissfully while moaning. Emma walked up, counting the money, laser focused, and replied, 95. Pretty good, Jules exclaimed. Or is it? I have no frame of reference here. Honestly, Emma exhaled, I just want to get rid of it. Anything that reminds me of... Emma knew Jules knew the end of that sentence, which had to be edited for the moment due to a nearby proximity of a still playing with her new doll, June. Copy that, Captain, Jules said, handing off the hose to Emma so she could blissfully wash her face after a day out in the sun. You made the right decision, Em, Jules remarked empathetically. I know, Emma nodded, before turning to look at June. I know, as the sounds of children playing and adults barbecuing filled the summer suburban air. Night-night, Junebug. Emma walked into June's bedroom, now dressed in a fresh t-shirt and basketball shorts, her hair recently washed. Mama, you need to say goodnight to Sadie. Sadie? Oh, my goodness, how could I forget to say goodnight to Sadie? Come here, Sadie baby. Emma leaned down to give Sadie a big kiss on her pink cheeks. Good night, Sadie. Emma followed the same path with June, giving her an even longer, harder, louder kiss on the cheeks with a big grand finale mwah sound. Mama, Sadie said she wants to go to the pond tomorrow. The pond, huh? Does Sadie know how to swim? Yeah, she said she'll teach me. Oh, perfect. Something caught Emma's attention. I thought Sadie had blue eyes. She did. Sadie can switch eye colors? That's pretty cool. She wanted us to have the same eye colors, like sisters. Emma looked at Sadie's eyes. They were the same exact light green as June's eyes. All right, Bugaboo. Nighty-night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Emma tucked June into bed and then started to walk out, rotating her neck. Good night, Mama. Say good night, Sadie. As Emma was about to turn off the light, she heard, Good night. Emma turned quickly. That was not the sound of her daughter. It was another child, an older child. Emma stood in the doorway, staring over at Sadie. Sadie can talk too? Of course, Mama. She's a regular girl. Emma nods, smiling, and turns off the light as she closes the bedroom door halfway. Emma laid on the couch, scrolling through old photos of her and a man, deleting one photo after another of them in different places around the town. Globe, very happy, smiling, kissing over a 10-year stretch, stopping only to sip from her glass of wine. She comes upon a picture of her, this man, and a baby June, sitting at the lip of a beach as a tiny wave washes in to cover their feet. Emma's finger hovers over the delete icon, debating, but then stops to put her phone down and sit up off the couch. This modest living room is pretty bare, minus the couch and TV mounted 10 feet from Emma up on the wall. Emma finishes her glass of wine and then sits up. As she stands, she quickly notices something and then clutches her chest in mild shock. Jesus, she said out loud, calming herself down. Sitting at the bottom of the steps was Sadie, staring up towards Emma, with her picturesque smile, arms crossed. Emma laughed to herself, realizing the absurdity of her fright in this moment. Very funny, Junie, Emma said towards the steps as she bent down to put her big wine glass on the nearby coffee table. When she bent back up and turned, Sadie was still sitting there, but something was different. Emma stood there for a moment, trying to make sense of it. Emma continued to stare at her. It had been a long day, a long week, a long month, a long year. The fighting with Hank, the affair, the separation. Your mind could play tricks on you when you're anxious, she remembers someone saying at some point. Plus, she had just finished her second glass of wine, but through all those emotions coursing through her veins, she still knew without a shred of a doubt Sadie's arms were crossed. It wasn't just the change in posture. It was the familiarity of the posture. The way Sadie sat there on the last step with her arms crossed, reminding her of something. Someone. She looked up towards the top of the stairs, which were empty. No sign of a giggling June, just the darkness at the top of the stairs. As she moved closer, she thought she heard something. It was faint, but she heard something. Someone. Emma began to kneel down right in front of Sadie, and as the sounds became louder, still indecipherable, sounds of whispering, rapid, overlapping whispering, a convergence of different voices all speaking at a frantic pace over each other, until she got right in front of Sadie and the sound stopped. The silence was now deafening, but then she felt it right behind her, breathing down her neck. The cold breath from the bloody, yellow and chipped tooth mouth hovering behind her. Emma woke up in a daze. We're going to be late, Mama, she heard through the fog while being shook awake. June stood there in her soccer clothes, excited. Apparently, Emma had fallen asleep on the couch. With her bloodshot eyes, she saw past June towards the cat-faced clock and saw on the wall that it was 8:28. Emma sat up, her hair pointing in 3 different directions as she collected herself. Mama, Mama, Mama! Emma cut her off with her own, Mama is up, Mama is up, Mama is up. As Emma got up, pulled along by the hand of June, she took a quick glance at the stairs. Empty. Emma was still being pulled in her hungover glaze by the tiny hands of June towards her 2005 yellow Saab. A car she still looks at with some disdain because her ex leased it for her, and she always sees him when she sees the car. There was a slight drizzle in the air, which seemed apropos for her lingering headache. Emma reached for the back door, opened it, and then paused. Looks like someone got ready before us, huh? There you are, Sadie, June said enthusiastically. Sitting in the back seat with her seatbelt already on was Sadie. I didn't even hear her get up this morning, June said, crawling into the back seat next to her. Emma shook her head, smiling as she tucked June in and then closed the back door. The 2005 yellow Saab strolled through the light suburban neighborhood, the windshield wipers going back and forth to reveal the cozy, calm streets. Emma glanced back at June, saw that she was whispering something into Sadie's ear. What you talking about? It's a secret, June said mischievously. Secret? Even from Mama? Sadie said not to tell. Oh, come on, Sadie. Your secret's safe between us. Sadie said you would get mad. Me? Oh, come on. What's the secret? June's voice shifted in timbre, getting lower, more serious, darker.
She said no, Mom.
Emma's heart skipped a beat. Everything about that moment felt off, especially the fact that she called her mom and not mama. Emma sat on the sidelines on her lawn chair as the little girls ran by chasing a soccer ball out on the big green damp field. Attack, ladies, attack! Jules roared from next to Emma sitting in her own lawn chair. Don't be afraid of the ball! Jules roared again before calmly leaning back, saying towards Emma, they're afraid of the ball. Emma was a bit distracted, staring only at June as she continued to run along with the other girls chasing the ball in a chaotic string of little kicks. Do I smell like weed? Jules asked. Emma didn't hear it. She couldn't hear anything outside her focus on the little girl. Gus got me so stoned this morning, I thought I was in a Pixar movie. Jules caught wind of Emma's daze. Em, you okay? Yeah, Emma responded, finally somewhat snapping back into reality. I forgot my phone in the car. Emma stood up and walked off. When Emma got back to her car, she poked through the window, looking into the back seat. Sadie's eye line was aimed directly at Emma. It was not before. Emma was positive of that. They were locking eyes. Thoughts raced through Emma's head. She stared at June for a moment and then started to walk away until she stopped. The sea of little girls and parents walked from the fields into the parking lot, chatting and splitting off towards their various cars. As June excitedly charged towards the sob until she got to just the outside and opened the back door and screamed. The scream was piercingly loud as Jules ran over. What's wrong, June? Sadie! Sadie, she's gone! Who? Sadie, she's gone! June pointing to the empty back seat. June screams again, her echoing scream heard by every parent and child in the parking lot. Okay, Jules tried to say calmingly. We'll find her. Emma? Emma finally approached, debating how to handle this. What's wrong? Her doll is gone, Jules said. She's not a doll. Whoa, Jules said, cleaning out her ears. It's okay, June, we'll find her. She didn't get up and run away, right? June started screaming again, while Jules frantically looked around the car until Emma clicked open the trunk. Check the trunk, June. June darted behind the car and then nearly dove into the trunk, exclaiming, Sadie! June pulled Sadie out of the trunk and then hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face as parents walked by, concerned. Jules saw the stink on the nearby parents' faces and asked, We got a problem? No? Keep walking. Oh, Sadie, I thought I lost you, June said, still hugging Sadie tightly as Emma watched with frustration and confusion. Jules leaned in towards Emma, intrigued, and said, Well, you wanted her to have friends, right? Emma continued to stare at her daughter and responded, That little bitch freaks me out. Jules stared at June and finally responded with, She looks like Jen Simmons, that cunt. Emma drove back in the opposite direction through town as she glanced back into the back seat to see June giggling as she leaned closely against Sadie's smiling face. Emma's fidgeting fingers tapping against the seatbelt clicker. Hey, Bug, tell me about Sadie. What does she like to do? Lots of things. Lots of things? Can Sadie be more specific? She said. Emma waited with anticipation. Yes? She said, Daddy isn't coming back. Emma sighed, all of her frustration at the doll quickly evaporating. Of course, her inner monologue declared. Her child was using the doll to communicate her emotions. It was so obvious. How could she have thought whatever she had previously thought? Daddy loves you, Bug. You'll still see him all the time. He just won't be living with Mommy anymore. But that has nothing to do with you. Mommy and Daddy love you more than anything else in this whole world. Understand? There was a pause from the back seat as Emma saw her daughter staring at the ground. Sadie says it's your fault Daddy left. The car screeched to a halt. Emma turned to the back seat. She said, What? Sadie is tossed onto the side of the road as Emma peels off down the suburban road, June banging and screaming against her window, yelling Sadie's name at the top of her tiny lungs. Emma cracked her neck, reached down, and turned on Taylor Swift's Wildest Dreams. June blared and screamed and started kicking the back of Emma's car seat. Emma's response? Turn up Taylor Swift as loud as she could to drown out her daughter. Just as the chorus kicked in, so too did Emma's participation in the song, singing along. Mom, yeah, it's Sadie. Say you'll remember me, standing in a nice dress, staring at the sunset, babe. Red lips and rosy cheeks. Say you'll see me again. Emma got out of the car from the tiny driveway, opened the back seat of her car, heard the ferocious screaming, and then immediately closed the door again. Walking back into the beautiful, comforting silence and doing a quick little dance routine towards her front door, guided by the majestic lyrics of Taylor, Emma sat at her dinner table, big glass of Prosecco in hand, plate of salmon and veggies in front of her, looking ahead of her, asking, Bugaboo, I told you, Sadie was mean, that's why we had to get rid of her. June banged the table hard and said, that's why you got rid of her. June leaned back into her seat as her untouched food remained in front of her angry eyes. Okay, tomorrow morning, we can go to the American Girl doll store and you can pick out, I don't want a doll, I want Sadie. June, you can't get whatever you want. The world doesn't work like that. And you need to be nicer to Mama. My entire day has been driving and cooking for you. Is that a nice way to thank Mama by yelling at her? Sadie was right. Sadie was... Emma caught herself, sipping Prosecco instead of retaliating. Sadie was right about what, June? June just shook her head, avoiding eye contact, playing with her untouched food. I miss Dad. Like a shotgun blast to her heart, Emma sunk into her seat. She took a beat. June? Doorbell rang. Emma checked her Black Citizen Eco Drive watch and got up, heading towards the door. She opened it and saw nothing but an empty seat. As she started to close her front door, something caught her eye. She looked down. There it was, Sadie. Emma backed up, petrified. June roared from behind her, running past Emma to nearly tackle Sadie, hugging her as tightly as she possibly could. You came back, look! Mom, she came back, she came back! Emma stood in her tiny backyard smoking a cigarette, hand slightly shaking as she looked down at her phone, typing 911. And then stopping. What the hell would she tell them? They'd just lock her up for being a lunatic. Erase and start again. New text to Jules began with, WTF, do you remember the... She stopped. What the hell would she tell Jules? What would she tell anyone? How could she possibly explain this to someone without her coming across as insane? Insane like her mother. There was only one person who she could potentially describe what happened to, and they wouldn't immediately try to lock her up. New text message composition. To Hank. Hey. Her finger hovered over the send button. Her fidgeting, shaking finger. She knew what this hey meant, the domino effect it would create, like an addict going sober and then having a drink. She threw her phone across the yard and then stomped back into the house. Emma sat in the bathtub, glass of wine nearby on the floor, her eyes briefly lighting up the orange flare emanating from the tiny joint hitting her lips. The smoke exhaled out above the light streams of steam gliding up from the water. She heard tiny feet walking up behind the bathroom door. June? Bug? You okay? You know you can talk to me about anything, Bug. Anything, you know that, right?
Yes, Mother.
Emma's brow furrowed. The way she said, Mother. June, you want to take a bath with Mom?
Yes, Mother.
The door softly swung open. Nothing. Emma got up. She softly opened June's door and saw her sleeping in bed with her arms draped over Sadie, staring up at the ceiling, the flowing moonlight hitting just the right side of her face. The Burbs was on Netflix. It was comfort food. It was the scene where Tom Hanks and his neighbor Art decide to go knock on the door of their new neighbors. A smile was emerging onto Emma's face while Jerry Goldsmith's score kicked into gear until she heard thumps. She stared past the other tiny love seat towards the stairs. On top of the stairs was a soccer ball. Emma got up, walked over, looked at the soccer ball, which then proceeded to drop down, slowly, in a way that made little sense with the science of physics. It was moving at such a slow pace. It was as if someone was dragging it on a string while they walked. The ball eventually landed at Emma's feet. She reached down to grab it. When she stood back up, the sight pushed her backwards against the love seat. Sitting at the top of the stairs was Sadie, but there was something immediately off about her. She looked bigger, and her face, it looked a little worn down, as if the glint in her eyes had faded, while her smile had gone away, and her hair, it was long and black, pitch black, like a well. She was looking into Emma's eyes. Bitch. Emma grabbed Sadie by her head. Emma pulled out a chopping knife. Emma hacked off Sadie's head. Emma tossed Sadie's head into a garbage bag. Emma dropped Sadie's body onto the driveway. Emma got in her car, Taylor Swift blasting, and ran over Sadie's body multiple times, each time her body crackling like popcorn. I need to stop screwing comedians. It's so pathetic. Emma was lying in her own chair next to Jules, staring up towards her house. Sorry, she told Jules. I'm just waiting for the meltdown. Meltdown? You remember that creepy doll? Jen Simmons? Yeah, What? Cut off her head and then ran over her body until it turned to dust? Oh, that's normal. The back door finally opened, drawing both of their interests. Whoa, Jules exclaimed. Stop the presses. We got ourselves a star in our midst. Emma took off her sunglasses to get a better look. Make sure she wasn't hallucinating. Long flowing black hair, piercing light blue eyes, bright pink cheeks, wearing overalls over the top of a plain white t-shirt, hands firmly planted on her hips, boosting pride and confidence. Good morning. Well, hello, June. June's smile quickly faded. My name is not June. Emma knew it before she said it. My name
Is Sadie.
Oh, hello, Sadie. Have you seen my niece Junebug? June paused.
June is not here.
Not here? But we were going to go get manicures today. Who am I going to get dolled up with now if June isn't around?
June is not here.
June, I don't like those clothes. Please change, Emma said.
What are you afraid of, Emma? Being alone? Past your prime? Realizing that your entire life is behind you now? Turning into your mother?
A jaw dropped. Jules watched in disbelief. Finally, she broke the silence with, I'm going to get a refill. Jules and Emma sat in the living room, glasses of wine in hand, as the sounds of Madonna's Like a Prayer played from the second floor. Jules sang along quietly. I hear your voice. It's like an angel sighing. I have no choice. I hear your voice. Feels like flying. Jules stopped, realizing that Emma was looking at her annoyed. Sorry, how could I not? Emma got up to refill her Prosecco from the bottle placed on the coffee table. Everyone has a Madonna phase, Em. Not necessarily at 5, but June is advanced for her age. This isn't funny, Jules. That doll, it's... What? The doorbell rang. Emma froze. She knew what could be behind that door. Jules sat confused. Are you going to answer that? She asked. Emma just shook her head no. Em, what is wrong? Talk to me. Doorbell rang again. Do you want me to? No, Emma said emphatically. Don't answer it. The door opened. Emma darted towards the door until she saw who it was. Hank? Standing there in the doorway, keys in hand, was Hank. Same age as Emma. Black and peppered hair, white t-shirt, and jeans. Hey, he said calmly. What are you doing here? Emma asked, annoyed. Jules walked up behind Emma. Hey, Hank. Hank nodded. They clearly have issues. It was palpable from their greeting. Hey, Jules, Hank said. You texted me, and then I never heard back from you. Tried calling. You freaked me out, Emma. Is everything okay? Shit, Emma said under her breath. Yes, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I just wasn't sure what to do. You didn't respond. I thought maybe it was June. We're top-notch, Hank. You can go now. Hank said. Are you okay? Emma looked up. Actually, it's June. What's wrong? Hank said, closing the door behind him. She's acting weird. Maybe you could go talk to her. Okay, sure. And then maybe after we can talk? Fine, Emma conceded. Just, she needs you. Okay. Hank moved past them towards the stairs, stopping to turn back and asked, Madonna? Jules answered, It's a classic. Hank, confused, turned and headed back up the stairs. Emma walked back to the couch and sat down, chugging wine. Jules followed, softly but assertively, asking, You texted Hank? Why? I don't know. I forgot I did. I was drinking. And June is acting so weird. And this house, I have to sell the house. They're making cutbacks at work. I need help. Okay, Jules said, hugging Emma. It's okay. We got you, Em. Everything is going to be okay. The music shut off. They turned towards the stairs. Maybe he's actually helping for once, Jules said. Thumps were heard. Emma knew those thumps. She walked towards the stairs, looking up towards the top. Standing there, still looking like Sadie, was June. She tossed something down the stairs, and it made a thumping sound the same as the soccer ball. Emma saw it. Her face widened in horror. She reached down, pulled it up. Hank's decapitated head. Emma dropped the head, her hands now covered in mucus and blood as she tripped backwards, falling onto the floor, knocking her head against the ground hard. Jules walked over and saw the mayhem. What the fuck? Jules screamed. She looked up and saw June standing at the top of the stairs, holding the same chopping knife that Emma had used the night before. June glided down the stairs, arms extended out towards Jules. When she got to the bottom, she wrapped her hands around Jules's neck and squeezed. Barely able to form words through the snapping larynx, Jules pleaded, June, stop. Stop. June squeezed so hard you could hear Jules's throat crackling like bubble wrap. Bug, please. June's eyes turned black. All the glass in the house shattered, and she squeezed again, Jules's eyes popping out of their sockets. Blood spewed out of her mouth, littering June's cheeks with tiny red dots. June raised Jules's head off her body, letting the blood drain down her neck into her mouth, chugging the blood as if it was Prosecco. It was at this exact moment that Emma awoke and saw what was happening in front of her. Her entire world snapped in half during this moment. She could not function. Her entire body froze with such panic that words, thoughts, and movement were not possible. June, drenched in blood, stood up, all 6 foot of her, and turned with her black eyes, yellow teeth, long, sharp fingernails, and said, Mother. June ran for the front door. It slammed shut so hard that all the lights in the house went out at once. She tried to open the front door, but the knob snapped off, sending Emma flying backwards again into the floor as she looked up, her eyes widening again. Sprawled out on the ceiling with 4 arms and 4 legs, each pointed tips at the end like a spider, was Sadie. She fell from the ceiling down onto Emma and began stabbing her with each of the 8 pointed tips. Blood and guts spilling out from each new wound. This shrieking spider began puking light green mucus all over Emma's face until Emma woke up. The soft morning light hitting her face. She could barely breathe. She patted herself down, catching her breath. Drenched in sweat, she collapsed back onto her bed, laughing out loud at the extreme absurdity of her own nightmare. June's door swung open as Emma stood in the doorway. Bug? The room was empty and immaculate. No signs of June, or furthermore, no signs of Sadie. She walked down the stairs while yelling out, June, you want breakfast? June! The house was quiet and clean. The carnage of the nightmare remained a figment of her darkest imagination as she peacefully looked around for signs of her daughter. Bugaboo! Then she did see something. The front door. The front door was slightly open. Emma walked over to the front door and noticed something just below it. Blood. A trail of blood running from the bottom of the front door down the brief porch steps out to the tiny lawn. Standing out there, mouths agape, were her neighbors, looking on in horror. The hell was their problem? Emma thought at first. They began to take out their cell phones, recording her. "The hell are you doing?" she blurted. "Is there a problem?" But then she saw and froze. A tsunami of panic washed over her face. Every ounce of blood coursing through her veins turned to ice. On the first table was Hank, without a head. On the second table was Jules, without a head. "No," Emma said softly, her head now in a permanent shake. "No, no, 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 no!" The sirens and flashing lights got closer. 12 cops simultaneously drew their firearms aimed directly at Emma. "Freeze!" they repeated. Emma was looking around. Only her eyes remained mobile. She looked at each horrified neighbor, trying to find something in the crowd, someone in the crowd she could plead with. Until finally, she found a set of familiar eyes. June. June was standing across the street, standing behind the horrified Navy man who had originally tried to buy the doll as he stood there with his own wife and little girl, about the same age as June. Navy man and his wife pulled June closer in between them as Emma reached out and said, "June!" Navy man's wife pulled June into her chest, shielding her away from the view. Then there was silence. "It's going to be okay, June. It's going to be okay," she whispered softly. June, her face now turned away from that side of the street, locked eyes with this little girl. "Hi," June said, leaning in to whisper. "Do you want to meet my friend?"
Hand in hand we chase the stars, whispers of joy, our laughter travels far. Sadie is my bestie through thick and thin, shining bright. Together we begin. Oh, Sadie is my #1 fan. Together forever, just me and my best friend. Sadie is my Chase friend, you plays Foxbird alive, Bagbetter as a friend. Artie gives her in a gold bounce, quick back Emma's cradle down. Sadie is my bestie, wearing a diamond.